Hour number 2 of Live and Local for a Thursday. Good to have you with us. They are just completing the 9th round of voting in the U.S. House of Representatives. They're trying to find a new speaker, and it looks like it's going to go to a 10th round. We'll keep you updated on what's going on there. One thing we do know is the President of the United States confirmed that he is going to our southwest border, probably on Sunday. He also unveiled some new initiatives that I don't know that they're going to do anything about the immigration crisis along our southern border. I don't think it's going to help. But for some expert testimony, let's check in with Daniel Garza, the president of the Libre Initiative, and he joins us. Daniel, first of all, hope your holidays were good. You back at it?
Yeah, I spent some good time with family and friends, Kevin, and back in McAllen, Texas. Thank you.
Good for you, my friend. What did you think of what you saw from the president? I don't know if you had a chance to look at his statement at all, but he makes some proposals that, frankly, I don't think they're going to help. They may even hurt what's going on along our southern border. What did you have a chance to see any of the president today?
I did. I mean, a lot of weak stuff, and it's more of the same thing, right, where executive actions, nothing permanent from Congress, that can actually give us certainty. All it does is just, make more efficient the entry of folks that don't have a permanent status. And really what we're creating here is a two-tiered society, right, where you have folks who are undocumented and live in the shadows, and then you have citizens who have the full rights and benefits of the citizenship. This is not a desirable situation, and so what we need are legal channels that are going to give people certainty and the ability to contribute to our economy out in the open. And then, of course, a strong border that, we know we have the certainty of security, but we don't have either of those two things right now.
I got to ask you, the fact that the president is going to the border finally, in fact, I was told by a member of the Republican National Committee that it will be his first trip ever to our southern border. Does that surprise you, or is that something you kind of expected?
I mean, I have to admit, I'm surprised by that statement that he's never been to the border. The indifference, I think, is what is mind blowing here. The indifference he's shown all his entire life to the border, and especially during his time where we've created this, or his administration and the ineptitude of his administration has created this border crisis. But Kevin, to be honest with you, he's welcome, but we don't need him to visit to know that he's not meeting up to his responsibilities of dealing with those entering illegally. And honestly, he doesn't need to show up at the border for us to know that he needs to reform, or Congress and the White House need to reform the asylum and refugee process. And of course, we need enhanced border security and courts to adjudicate these cases faster and quicker. So we don't allow people willy-nilly into the country. And then, of course, that we don't need him to show up at the border to know that he can deal with the Dreamer and DACA situation.
I want to ask you, because you were part of a major op-ed piece, and one of the things I loved about it was that, unlike a lot of op-ed pieces that say, we got problem A, we got problem B, we got problem C, yours had problems and fixes. Can you talk a little bit about the American dream and Latinos and where the connection lies?
Yeah, Kevin, I think Latinos are looking to policymakers to work together and to support policies that are going to rein in inflation and honestly increase productivity by getting people back to work. And that means getting control of government spending. And, of course, it means the quality healthcare and education and expand choices in that area. And, of course, modernizing our immigration system. So, when we talk about the economy, there are things we can do. One of them is going to be to make permanent those tax cuts that were put into place in 2017 that are set to expire in 2025. If we get hit with this massive tax increase by allowing this to expire, these tax cuts under Trump, it is going to put just another major barrier on the growth of our economy. And, also, there's another thing that we can do, and that's pass the Employee Rights Act, which would guarantee secret ballot elections and protect workers from having their dues and their fees used to promote political candidates and issues that they don't support. This would be really big in Nevada, where it's a huge union state.
I want to ask you, there's always been this notion out there that Hispanics and Latinos are that they want something special, they want something different from the rest of us. When you analyze it, they want what all of us want. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we want a thriving, growing America that is strong and has always had strong positioning up against our adversaries in the global stage, but also issues like healthcare, for example, and we were just talking about immigration. On healthcare, there's things that Latinos care about, like the personal option, where would provide Latino households the care they need at a price they can afford, and from providers that they trust in the private sector, not this sort of government controls everything. Also, the telehealth has been really big for Latinos, especially those in rural areas. This is where you can get in contact, with your doctor through your computer, and they can do a diagnosis. And if it needs to be elevated, then of course it's in person. But these kind of new innovations, are helping to reduce the cost of health insurance. You talked about immigration as well. There's the Bipartisan Border Solutions Act. There's the Dignity Act that has been proposed by both Democrats and Republicans. So many things where Latinos can work together with fellow Americans, with Democrats and Republicans on things that we agree on that we could pass right now. But gosh, I mean, with what's happening in Congress right now, we need to get to the business of governing.
I want to ask you about the Bipartisan Border Solutions Act. What's in it? What is in it that will actually work, which will improve our immigration status?
Well, Kevin, as you know, right now the asylum process is being gamed. There are nonprofit organizations who have manipulated the system where they are now training folks, to claim asylum when they don't qualify for it. But because the system is so overwhelmed, all these folks are given entry into America and given a court date to come back at a future time. What the Border Solutions Act would do is to create 4 regional processing centers in the high traffic zones, basically 4 courts, and it would give us 150 new immigration judges, 300 asylum officers, ICE and Border Patrol officers, so they could do the casework and the follow-up work that needs to be done. And then, of course, track these unaccompanied minors. And it would improve the speed of the adjudication system and address these surges. And so just so necessary where we can, with due process, of course, adjudicate these cases quicker so that we don't release thousands and thousands of folks into America that may never come back for a court date.
Again, Daniel Garza joining us. He is the president of the Libre Initiative. I want to ask you, border security to me is paramount. That's got to be job one. What is it that you believe will fix that? And I'm talking about just the border security, the Border Patrol, ICE, people like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see what's been going on with the border security. Look, you're right. It has to do with courts. It has to do also with assets on the ground. And that means boats in the river. That means helicopters in the air. It means quad runners and horses, more vehicles. It means Border Patrol agents. It means customs agents. Everything that we need to make sure that we have a virtual wall and a literal wall across the entire border where we control who comes into the country. Which, I mean, look, I think every American would agree that's the way it should be. We get to decide who comes into the country and under what conditions. But right now, we have an unfettered entry of folks that are coming in illegally, that are being processed and then released into America that we have no idea if they're ever coming back. We are also allowing the cartels to have these massive distribution centers and the sort of a system of trafficking people, women and children for the most nefarious reasons that I don't even want to get into because it's scary stuff. And then, of course, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl that is coming in at rates that are just astronomical. Something needs to be done at the border, and this administration has just been so inept, which is, again, why it's just so urgent to get a Speaker of the House and get cracking on this.
Let me just ask you, because this is an area that we've all been facing this week. You turn on cable news, it's all over the place. The fact that nothing is getting done in the halls of Congress, in particular in the House of Representatives. What do you make of that? I know people talk about it's, watching the sausage being made, and it's pretty ugly. But I'm curious, is this just something we have to go through to get to the other side, or is there something else in play here?
Look, I think every Republican has had patience with the process. I mean, like every other American, especially a Republican American, we support the notion of a minority faction getting their time to make their case. It's a hallmark of the American democratic system to give a voice to minority factions. That's why we have the filibuster. But this is internal party politics, and at some point, the patience will wear thin, and if these 20 have been unable to persuade other members over to their side, at some point you need to concede, right? So we can get to the business of government. I think the 20 that have been obstinate have made a strong case about past broken promises and the reckless spending that has been allowed to go on without debate. I'm angry too, but a majority of 200 of their peers deserve due respect too. A minority doesn't get to impose their will. And look, I don't know if McCarthy comes out Speaker at the end of this, but I tell you, Kevin, I swear to you, if a Democrat is made Speaker in the end, every Republican in America will be angry as all get out, and that would be a hellish, horrible result to this debacle if that were to happen.
I want to, and I'll give you as much time as you want on this. Your op-ed begins with a really optimistic statement that Latinos are entitled to live out their American dream the way so many of us have. Can you talk a little bit about what that American dream is for Latinos, and is it different than for the rest of us?
It's the American dream is personal to every individual. It's the notion that has been expressed by Senator Ted Cruz, right? That anybody from anywhere with nothing can achieve anything. And that's the spirit of America. That's just the spirit of our American dream, that you can achieve here what you could not achieve in your country of origin. And the reason we're able to do that, I believe strongly, Kevin, is because of our U.S. Constitution and the principles that were set out in our founding charters of freedom, of a free market, of free people who are free to express themselves and free to believe in a God. I think when you have that kind of freedom to innovate, to generate wealth and pass it on to your children, to have that free market that can accommodate for flows and flows of poor immigrants that can generate wealth for themselves and others, it's just a beautiful thing to behold and has to be defended, which is why we're fighting so hard against these sort of socialist type policies and the centralization of so much power and money and control going into the hands of politicians in Washington, D.C. That needs to be reversed. That needs to be inverted, which is part of the fight that's going on right now. With this fight for Speaker, I understand it. I get it. But at some point, we do need to get to the business of reversing bad policies and pushing good policies that are freedom-minded and will allow us to thrive and prosper in America.
In the final couple of minutes, I want to talk about something, because a lot of people don't understand it, and people that have lived here all their lives, they just don't relate to it, and that is the issue of asylum. What is a good reason for asylum, of granting asylum? What is a not so legitimate way of acknowledging asylum?
Yeah, there are people who are being persecuted for their political beliefs in countries like Central America and around the world. And I think there are nations also that are free, that are prosperous, that can accommodate for folks who can show that if they have expressed political views and are being persecuted for it, that we could allow to accommodate for a certain number of folks. But when you start gaming the system, and when folks are being allowed who do not qualify under an asylum status, then of course the system begins to get overwhelmed and it buckles and it becomes inefficient and actually is counterproductive. And that's exactly what has happened. I think what we need to do is set true markers and criteria in place so that there's certainty and people back in their countries of origin understand that if you're gonna come here to the border to try to game the system, you're not going to be allowed entry. That needs to be made crystal clear, and there needs to be a certainty about that. But those who are legitimately facing political persecution and would die if they would not be allowed entry, those are the folks that I think are getting cheated on this.
Let me ask you, a lot of people listen to somebody who is very reasonable like yourself, and they say, this Libre Initiative, I want to be a part of this. How can they be a part of the Libre Initiative?
Yeah, they can visit our offices. We have one there in Las Vegas. They can look us up on Facebook or on the website at www.delibre.org, DELIBRE. We're on Twitter at Libre Initiative. And then, of course, we also have local events that we're doing every once in a while. You're free to come to those whenever they're announced or when we're promoting them. I'd love to have you participate and be a part of this growing movement where you can have a platform to raise your voice and promote freedom-minded solutions to what is ailing America.
Daniel, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great 2023 and 2024. We'll take back the White House and we'll all be smiling. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Same to you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk again soon. There you go, Daniel Garza, the president of the Libre Initiative. Stay where you are. Do not touch that dial on AM 670 KMZQ.